Hello, Happy New Year, and welcome to episode 80 of the Mouses Makes Knitting podcast. This is probably going to be a long one. There's going to be a bit at the end about the shop and my plans for 2023. So if that's something that doesn't interest you, I will let you know when I'm going to start rabbiting on about that, and you can say goodbye to the rest of us. If you feel like it's too long and you've got to split it into watching on separate days, that's fine. So, shall I get on with it? Before I do though, I want to say I hope everyone had a lovely holiday period, and that if it's not your thing and you had to spend it with people that you would really rather not have done, I hope it was as pleasant and passed as quickly as you would like. And if you really enjoyed it and you're missing it, well, there'll be another one along in less than a year now. That's something to be cheerful about, isn't it? I'm just going to push the door to. Ewan is hoovering downstairs, which is very kind of him, but probably not the ideal time to be doing it. Excuse me. The weather is absolutely awful. It's one of those days when it's not going to get light all day, so we're working today with the overhead light on. I'm hoping colours and things will be as alright as they generally are. If not, well, doesn't really matter, I suppose. We tried. Okay, where to start? Let me tell you before I get into knitting. The make-along has started. The Starflake make-along has begun 1st of January to the 28th of February. The hashtags are for Instagram are Starflake, and for your finished objects, just Starflake FO. There are also 2 threads open on Ravelry, one for chatter, one for finished objects, and that is on the Mouses Makes Ravelry page group. Don't know quite what to call it. I've started mine. I'll show it to you later when we get to that bit. Right. Finished objects. I don't actually have them to show you, but I have finished 2 things. 3 things, in fact. And I don't even have a picture of the 3rd. Last week you will have seen my gift knits, and there were some outstanding. I finished my brother's hat. I posted that off to him, and I didn't think to take a photograph of it before I sent it. Never mind. I finished Ewan's scarf. I'll put a picture in here. He's very pleased with it. I was going to make him a cowl, and Dave said, no, you know he's all 1940s, do him a scarf, and it was the right decision. He really liked it. That was made in Cascade Heritage in black, wine and pumpkin. There isn't a pattern. I just did a chain of a length. I think I sort of like, I didn't even measure it, I just eyeballed it. Then I did 1 row of black, cast on. Do you cast on? I don't know, I don't crochet much. I'm going to call it cast on in black. Did 1 row of black trebles, that's UK term, I think they're doubles in American. Then I did a row of the wine, but I front post and back post all the way along. Then I went back the other way with the pumpkin, back posting the front posts and front posting the back posts. Did the same with the wine, then 2 rows of black, wine, pumpkin, wine, 2 rows of black, all the way across till I'd got 5 pumpkin stripes. Then I did a wine and 1 row of black just to finish it, and then I just added some tassels on the end. Very simple. I can say that because I managed to do it and make it up out of my own head, and I do not crochet, so yeah, he really likes it, so that's a relief. I also finished Peter's socks. I'll put another photograph in here. They were finished at 11:45 on Christmas Eve, PM that is, literally 15 minutes to midnight. Sorry, my brain has now gone off singing Iron Maiden songs. Yeah. They were knit in Drops Delight in the colour 18. Heels and toes, I used West Yorkshire Spinners, can't remember the name, but I held it with some Kid Silk mohair in just sort of an off-white creamy colour, and that I did that because the West Yorkshire Spinners was a bit thinner than the Drops Delight, and the heels and toes would have felt odd. So now he's got nice, warm, fluffy. He and Lauren wear their socks more as slippers around the house than in shoes, so they've both got a pair of cosy round the house socks now. So that's all I finished. Skin of my teeth, that was, literally. But I have cast some new things on. I have, of course, cast on the Starflake, and I'm going to show you this first purely because I've already spoke about it. This is the Starflake by Stephen West, and it's what we're having a KAL for the first couple of months of the year. I'm going to show you the colours I'm using first of all. This is my main colour. It is pretty much that bright. It's Cascade Heritage. It's highlighter violet, and it is colour number 5776. It is quite bright, and I'm using that. You should have 2 skeins of each in 2 contrasting colours. I've got 2 skeins of that. I didn't have 2 skeins of anything else to contrast with it apart from pumpkin, and I did think orange and bright violet might have been a little bit much even for me. So I'm using this one, which has got a cat hair in it. I'm just going to leave it there. So you can just about see the colours there. Some very pale dusky pinks and green. And this one, I had to split the ball while I was winding it, or split the cake. It's not that yellowy. It's a lot darker. Yeah, the colours aren't coming out terribly well at all. It's more mustard and burgundy and sort of a denim-y colour blue. They go together quite well, and I'm using them slightly differently than I'd intended to. I'll show you why in a minute. So you start off by making your parallelograms. Quite pleased I managed to get that out without making a mess of it. So these are mine. I've stopped because I'm not very happy. I think it's too loose. The fabric is very loose, well, you can see through it. And also I've used the darker colour, which you can see a lot better there. The darker colour of my 2 contrasts. And I don't really like how it's coming out. I think that would look much better in a stocking stitch section further down the shawl. So I'm going to pull this down, and I don't know whether to go down a needle size. It's on 3.75, and I've been dithering over this for a couple of days. Don't know whether to go down a needle size or try wooden needles. Cascade Heritage is very soft, and I'm wondering if that's why I'm getting such a loose texture, because it's sliding too much on the metal needles. I might try it on a wooden needle before I go down a size. So I've got to restart this, but that's okay. There's 2 months. It's a 1 month. It was originally a 1 month project because it was a mystery KAL in, I want to say 2019, but I might be wrong. So I'm going to, instead of using this colour for my parallelograms, I'm going to use this one. And I think that will just look a bit nicer once I've decided what I'm going to do needle wise. So that's that one. I'm looking around for the other thing. Oh, it's there. The other thing I cast on, that was cast on New Year's Day. The other thing I cast on was the Flying Fox wrap, also by Stephen West. I'm on a Stephen West kick this year. I have, and it's someone who was watching the podcast, I can't remember if it was a podcast or one of the lives, suggested that I make this my make 9 for this year, and that is a very good idea. I'll tell you more about that later. So I cast on the Flying Fox wrap, and I've used this yarn, which is by Cello Wools. I think they're out of business now. I did look them up to see if I could find any other colours, and I think they went out of business in 2019. This is kind of it's an acrylic mohair substitute, essentially. I know. Burn me as a witch, why don't you? It's called Sandy Beach, this colourway, and it's coming out pretty true to colour. It's maybe a little bit darker than it's showing on my screen anyway. And I'm using it with this, which is one of my own hand dyed. Doesn't have a name, just a tealy colour. It's a little bit more green toned than it's showing there. But this is a brioche wrap. And I have so far completed 1 repeat. I've tied myself in a knot, bear with me. 1 repeat of the pattern. It's a 16 row pattern. I'm going to show it to you in a minute, I swear. Right, there we go. I've got this much done, which does not look like very much, but oh my goodness, the concentration and the angst and the counting and the shing at people while I got this far. It is meant to have those holes in it. That's not a mistake. I'm knitting this as part of Alex from My Yarny Corner's Test Your Limits Mal, which runs, thankfully, from the 1st of January to the 1st of June, because quite honestly, it may well take me that long. Although, if I'm honest, I am getting the hang of it now. This is the right side, and the right side is the tealy colour, and this is the wrong side, which you can actually see a bit better. So it's got a shaped edge, and then it's got these holes that will eventually kind of make a kind of a teardrop shape with more shaping. I have done brioche before, only a little bit. I did it in the Shawlography shawl, and then I made a cowl for Dave, I think for Christmas last year or for his birthday. I've never done any shaping as such, and so this is my limit testing, all the shaping and the carry on. Fortunately, I enjoy brioche. I have made another 2 holes here. The holes sort of zigzag along up it. This really did test your limits is perfect. It really is testing my limits. So that's my entry into that. I'm hoping it won't take me till the 1st of June. I think now that I've done all the shapings for the first time and got my head around what it's going to do, what it's going to look like when I've done it, I think it may be a bit easier. I did have a little bit of a hiccup. And in the interest of honesty, I'm going to show it to you. Can you see this here? Actually, let me show you this side. It's easier to see. I made an extra stitch and I rolled with it for a few rows until I realised it shouldn't be there. I'm not pulling it down for the sake of 4 stitches. No one's going to see that unless I show it to them, are they? So that's fine. The pattern calls for this to be knit to 88 inches long. I will not be doing that. I'm making it shorter because all I want really is for it to come around my neck, cross over and then pin. So that's that one. Let me try and put this pattern back in. There are quite a few make-alongs going on this year. There's mine, obviously, the Starflake. There's Alex's Test Your Limits. Karen from the Recreational Knitting Podcast is having a Whip Begone 2023. Amanda from Little Lycac is also having a, what's hers called? Crack the Whip Mal. I will put the details for all of those below and links if I can. Amanda's, I think, takes place on Ravelry. I'll check and I'll add it in below. The other thing I cast on, I have buried under some other stuff. So there's a lot of moving things around today. I'm very sorry. On Boxing Day, the Hiberknitalong began. The Stephen West, it's become an annual thing. I don't know if this is the 2nd or the 3rd year. Oh, there's my pencil I was looking for all night last night. It's underneath my work. Sorry, I'm trying to surprise you with it. Right, hang on. So the Hiberknitalong this year is the Aurora cabin shawl. And I bought this pattern when it first came out. I think it was October or November. Saw it, fell in love. And I dyed up my own yarns to use in it, which I'm going to attempt to show you now. So these are my colours. These two on the left, let's put it down because it's starting to go and I don't want to be chasing a rolling cake of yarn all over the floor. These two on the left, this one is coming out fairly true to colour. It's a little bit bluer. This one is a little bit greener. They're not as close together in colour as they look there. And I've done quite well with this. I did go down, the pattern calls for I think a 3.5. Why don't you just look, Mandy? It's there in front of you. That's a good idea. I'll do that, shall I? Yes, 3.5mm needle. I went down to a 3mm because apparently I'm now a very loose knitter. I don't know how that happened. I've always been tight, but there you go. So, would you like to see what I've done so far? Ta-da! Oh, look, it's big enough to do that with. I don't want to pull it off the ends. So I've got section 1 is really just this tiny little bit here. I did that and thought it was a bit loosey-goosey, and that's when I decided to go down to the 3mm. I didn't redo that. It didn't seem worth it. Then you've got the grey and the pale blue together, and I was worried as I was knitting it that there wasn't enough contrast, but as you can see, there's a reasonable amount. So that's section 2. Section 3 is this beautiful slipped stitch section, which uses all 5 colours all at the same time. You've got them all on your needles at the same time. So this I can only really knit sitting here with my little table, so that I've got all the cakes of yarn, shuffling them around. Then section 4 is this striped section, and this is using these two. And the look I was going for was kind of it was inspired by an old pair of denim jeans, basically. So I've got all the blues and the greys that you would get in a pair of faded denim jeans, you know, where it's darker in the creases and round the seams and what have you. I added this one in for a bit of warmth. This is teal. It is quite a dark teal. I don't know. That's a bit more like it. And then, of course, the stitching. This isn't quite as golden as the stitching on an old pair of jeans, but it's inspired by it. It's not meant to be a complete replica of. So that's my Aurora cabin shawl so far. I'll give you a bit of a... I'm juggling. I need to change it onto a longer needle now, and I've left off doing that because I haven't knit on it for a few days because I've been doing the others. Yeah, so that's your slip stitches and what have you. I am really pleased with it, really pleased with it. I can't wait to finish it, but at the same time I'm enjoying knitting it so much that I don't want to rush it. I expect there'll be another one of these. It may not be till next year because I have quite a full list. Having shown you all the things I've cast on, let me talk about my full list. So I made a Make 9 last year, as I do every year. This is it. As you can see, I've made 2 things on it because the stars are coloured in. I completed the Advent Envy shawl. That was my Advent knit for last year. And I completed the On a Whim cowl. That I think was done probably by the end of December last year, as in 2021. No, it must have been 22. It was done very early on anyway. I did cast on the Painting Honeycombs by Stephen West. Didn't like the colours that I'd got, pulled it down. The Granny Go Round cardigan, which is on here, I tried my crochet tension is all to pot and I don't know how to fix it. I think I needed to go up a needle size, a hook rather, or maybe 2. But I was so disillusioned that I binned that as well. And that became my Autumn Stripes sweater. I used the yarn for that. And the Advent wrap, which is on here, would have been finished by the end of the year if I hadn't given myself so much gift knitting to do. So that is under construction and I will show you that in a minute. So my Make 9 for last year, for 2022, was a bit of a bust, really. It did not go according to plan. However, this year's Make 9, fingers crossed, will go a lot better because this year's Make 9, I've already got 3 of them on the needles. So it comprises of the Aurora cabin shawl, bit of a cheat because it started on Boxing Day, but I'm allowing myself that. The Starflake and the Flying Foxtail wrap. Those 3 are already on the needles, so you could say I'm almost a third of the way towards my goal. The Vertices Unite, these are all Stephen West shawl patterns. Slumber shawl. I'm going to knit another slip extravaganza, even though I have yet to complete the one that I have on the needles, because I want to do it in a different colourway. The Pagona shawl, there are 2 versions. There's a small one and there's also a large one. I'm intending to do the large one. However, if I've still got a million things unfinished, it may end up being the small one. But there will be a pagoda of some description. The KAL, the Stephen West KAL in October, I've put that on my list even though I don't know what it's going to be. I have a backup plan if when the KAL comes out I look at it and I go, oh no, which is kind of what happened with Twists and Turns. I couldn't make up my mind about colours, and that should have been a hint to me that I wasn't fully committed to it, because normally I'll look at something and I go, oh, I know what colour I want to do that in, or I've got 3 or 4 different colour options I want. And yeah, Twists and Turns, it just wasn't for me. And then the ninth item on the list is for another KAL, and it's the Starflake, which is the Stephen West blanket version of the Starflake Shawl. And that's a KAL that's being run by Caroline of the Area Bark podcast. So far, there's Caroline, Nancy, who's Kitty Scrapper, myself, and our friend Lorraine, who we call Lorraine from the future. Hello, Lorraine. Lorraine lives in Australia and is 11 hours ahead of us, hence why she is Lorraine from the future. I'm sure you're welcome to join us. Details are on Instagram under Area Bark Designs. I will put the link for that below. Or the hashtag rather, it's ADP Starflake. I'll look it up and I'll put it below. In fact, I'm going to write down that I'm going to put it below, because I may forget. So I'm a bit more hopeful for this year's Make 9 list. Last year's, I think I scrabbled about for things to put on it, whereas this year I know what I want to make, and so it makes sense just to make that my Make 9 list. Thank you to whoever's idea that was. It was a brilliant one. Whip wise, I might as well tell you about whips at the moment. The only things I'm going to show you, and you may have seen these if you've been watching Vlogmas. My brain is struggling a bit today. I've been trying to fight off, or trying not to allow my body to have some kind of chesty coldy thing. And I have a good day where I feel fine, and then I have a day when I feel really rotten. And today I didn't get up till lunchtime, hence the fact my hair is wet yet again. One of these days I'm going to do this podcast with dry hair and none of you will recognise me. I've completely forgotten what I was saying. I'm sure if it's important it'll come back to me. Right, this is the Advent wrap that I was just talking about. It was on my Make 9 for 2022, and it nearly got made in 2022, but Gift Knits stopped play basically. I'm making this with my Advent from Amanda from Little Lycac. The Advent was based on the Nutcracker. And this is what I've got so far. Apologies if you've seen this on Vlogmas, but I know not everybody watches the vlogs. So it's knit from the hem to the hem, 2 rectangles. I'm knitting them both in tandem but on different needles. So each mini skein, 20 gram mini, I've split roughly into 2. It's not using the whole 10 grams on each side. So what I'm then doing, looks around desperately for yet something else. She's put something somewhere she cannot find. What I'm doing with what's left is I'm making these 2. They're Russian join balls. They're not magic knot balls, but everybody knows what a magic knot ball is. They are roughly the same size. Each time I'm measuring my leftover, measuring the ball, seeing which ball needs topping up, which ball needs less. Oh, sorry, I've got an itchy nose. You get the idea. And my plan is then to make a pair of socks with these. Probably I'll save them to see if anybody's doing Christmas in July, and I'll make them as my entry for Christmas in July, because they're my advent. Makes sense, doesn't it? So I am very, very, very behind with this. I am, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think I'm on day 9. There's a lot of catching up to be done on this. I have not touched this since whatever the last day was that I worked on it. That makes sense, doesn't it? I haven't touched it since I last worked on it. You know what I mean. I was working on it every day. I was working on that day's yarn, and I haven't touched it since I opened this last yarn. Oh my God, my nose is itching. My brain is malfunctioning. This is probably setting the course for the rest of the year, you know. But then if you're here, you know that's what to expect. So it's no surprise to anybody, is it? So, yeah, that's still to be finished. My other Advent project, along with just about every other knitter in the known universe, and I'm sorry these are black and white, is the Anthology Throw by Helen Stewart. Everyone and their dog has made this as an Advent project, and I'm not in the least bit surprised. This one I'm doing with my Advent from My Yarny Corner, the lovely Alex and Danny, and I'm quite far behind with this as well. I am here. No, let's turn it around so you can actually see something. There you go. I've got this much. This is of course folded in half. That's the centre. It's got the ball inside. That's why it looks a funny colour. That's the centre, and I'm working my way out. It is a huge circular project. I'm only on day 148 and I've just passed the 50% mark. So quite far behind with this as well. I've chosen this though to be my knitting on when I'm tired project, because it's just stocking stitch. Every so often you have to do an eyelet row. You mark it off on the pattern as you go, which I believe is quite common with Helen Stewart patterns, so it's easy when you're tired. There's little opportunity to get lost, unless, as I did a little while ago, you start a row of eyelets and then halfway around you decide to stop making eyelets, and then you've got to pull half the row back again. Other than that, there's little opportunity for going wrong. I have taken a couple of days out because I want to put them into my habitation throw instead. I may not have enough yarn to finish it, but if I don't, I have got a backup skein to finish the border with if there's not enough of the Advent minis left. So I'm not concerned about that at all. But there were just a couple of balls. In fact, I might be able to get them and show you. Hang on. I'm going to pause you. I'm back. Right, so I took out day 11 and day 14. Day 14 is this pretty brown. And I've already got some brown in my habitation throw, so I thought I might save this to do the other end so that they correspond. And this one, oh, I just love this one. I don't know how well it's coming out there. I just liked it too much to put it in the blanket. So it's going to go into my habitation throw, where it will have a larger section so it won't get so spread out and narrowed, because we're getting to they're getting quite narrow stripes now as the blanket's getting bigger. So I'm going into, I hope you're sitting down, I'm going into 2023 with 16 active works in progress. I'd like to be good. I was watching Amanda and she was saying she's running this clearing your whips make along, and she was saying that she's not going to allow herself to cast anything new on until she's finished an equivalent project. And I would like to say that that's what I'm going to do, but you know I'd be lying, so there's no point, is there? I have got a folder which I showed on Christmas Eve, I think, full of the projects that I would like to do this year. And I'd like to say I'm going to finish some stuff before I cast some new stuff on, and I am going to try. I mean, I've got a fair amount on my needles at the moment of new things that I could try and restrain myself a little bit. The other new project that I've cast on, actually no, I'll show you that in a minute when I talk about something else. I tallied up what I'd knit in 2022, and there were far more sweaters than I imagined there would be, this being one of them. This is Celosius by Jennifer Steingars. This year I've got 2 Christmas sweaters that I'd planned to get done for this Christmas just gone and never even got cast on. A mosaic sweater, again, that I wanted to get done for this winter. Ewan's 1940s army sweater that we dyed the yarn up for. And probably 3 tees of some description. A rocket tee or a breezeway, probably. The reason being, I dyed up some yarn a couple of months ago to make one. A lovely chartreusey green, a warm brown, and then a cream speckled with the 2 that I want to make a tee with. Then I was given this beautiful yarn for Christmas that was dyed by my friend Jane. And I have a plan for this with some lovely yarn from Alex that I think was probably the first My Yarny Corner yarn that I bought. It's called The Lonely Lamplighter, and I have had it squirreled away for something special. It is a very dark green like this, so I might either dye something up or find something lighter that will tone with the 2, and that's another striped tee. And then both my advents came with a full skein. I was very lucky in that respect. Alex's My Yarny Corner came with this one, which is called Anticipation. And Amanda's Little Lycac came with this one. So I'm sure you can tell they are pinker than they look in there. Yeah, there's a plan afoot to make those into a tee as well. I'm thinking I will either dye up a skein of the darker pink, or try and get this sort of peachy colour and then do it as a fade rather than striped. So I know there are going to be at least 3 rocket tees, 3 other sweaters for me, at least 1 for Ewan. He's also after a World War I cardigan now. It's nice when they have a hobby. He wants some socks that I'm gonna be dyeing the yarn up for as well, because the ones that he bought, I think they're made of Brillo pads. You know, when the washing up sponge has got like that scratchy stuff on one side, that's what they're made of, I swear. So I'm going to dye him up some yarn and make him some. And he wants some fingerless gloves in beige. Plus I'm rambling now, I've got 2 sweaters to finish from last year, and all these shawls and socks. This brings me on to socks. So the other make along that I'm taking part in this year is being run by Denise from Dear Designs, and she's doing the year of the sock again, and January's prompt is Snowdrop. I know what I'll do, I thought. I will make some green and white socks, because snowdrops, white flowers on green stems. I'll stripe them and I'll do them 2 at a time in tandem. And then I was knitting them last night and I thought, these are going to look like football socks. Because one of our local teams, Yeovil Town, their colours, the Glovers they are green and white, I think. So I had a quick think and I decided what I'll have to do is try and pretty them up a bit. I don't know if you can see. Oh, this is tricky. So where I've changed colours, all I've done is when I've changed the colour, I've slipped every other stitch, and then the next row I've purled. So they're going to be opposites. One is going to be green and white, one is going to be white and green. I've done the same thing on the green one, just to stop them looking like football socks, I hope. If they do, it doesn't really matter. But they just weren't going to come out as pretty as I had imagined. So yes, lots of make-alongs. So there's going to be at least, well, 13 pairs of socks, 12 for the make-along and 1 for Ewan. And I can't have 12 pairs of socks, but that's okay because I've got 4 pairs over there waiting to be finished. So that should be 16 pairs of socks if I don't get distracted and cast on others. So let me check my notes. I think that is everything. Oh, I was talking about the folder. Yes, anything I cast on this year is going to come out of that folder. I've had a look through, I've put things into that folder, and with the exception of the KAL in October, I'm going to try not to buy any patterns and not to work on anything that doesn't come out of that folder, unless it's already on the needles. Because I want to try and restrain myself a bit. I got a bit carried away in 2022 because my friend Tonya from the Calm as a Stitch podcast was having cast on parties, and I couldn't just cast on one thing. I had to cast on 5 or 7 or whatever each time. So hence why I've got 16 active whips going into 2023. My other goal for this year is to get everything cleared off my needles before the 1st of December, so that come December I can just do my advent knitting. Speaking of December, I did Vlogmas and didn't podcast throughout December. I did a live on a Saturday instead. That seemed to be quite popular with people who were joining in. It was also quite popular with me, frankly, because it was really nice to have some interaction. So that may be something we do again going forward. Right. Now it is time for me to talk about my plans for the shop. So if you're not interested in that, that is absolutely fine. It has been lovely chatting to you, and I hope you've enjoyed what I've shown you, and maybe it's inspired you to join in with some make-alongs. And if that's all you're here for, then I will see you again next week. However, if you would like to hear about the shop, I will begin rambling on about that now. So I think October or November I opened a Ko-fi shop. The link to Ko-fi is always down below the video, and I dyed up some yarn and I popped it in there, and it was very well received, which I'm very grateful for. So I'm going to try and make this a bit of a part-time business. I'm inspired by Alex and Danny. I'll be perfectly honest. Alex gave it a year to see if she could make a go of it, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I have some plans, and I've written them down somewhere. Where have I written them down? Here. Maybe one of my goals should be to be a bit more organised when I podcast and put things. I could put them in a logical order, couldn't I? Working left to right, rather than having to scour the room to find where I've hidden what I've got to do next. So the shop's going to remain on Ko-fi for a variety of reasons. Etsy, I've had some reports from people who sell on Etsy that it's quite expensive for a seller, which would mean I would have to put the prices up of the things that I'm selling to cover the selling fees. And they don't advertise your shop. So I'm quite happy to stay on Ko-fi. Ko-fi don't advertise the shop, so there's nothing lost there. I'm quite happy to build the business by word of mouth through you guys. And it allows me to keep my costs down so that I can offer you yarn at a lower price than I would be able to if I were on Etsy. Similarly, if I had my own website, I would have to include the cost of the website fees into the cost of the yarn. So I think Ko-fi is where I want to stay for the time being. I have some plans for the year. First and foremost, I want to have a monthly yarn this year. It will start, I don't think I'm going to do January, although I might. I'm doing some dyeing tomorrow, so I'm planning as I'm talking. Basically, I want to tie in the monthly yarn club with Dear Designs Year of the Sock. So each month I want to offer a skein of yarn that would tie in with whatever her prompt is for that year, for that month. So for this month, obviously it's snowdrops. So it would be probably green and white yarn. Next month, I've had a look, it's violet, and I have plans in my head for what I want to do for violets. I also want to do a skein not tied into the sock, the year of the sock, so a skein that is for that month. My plan with that being to make a blanket. So I will have a huge blanket which shows the progression of the months through 2023. I think I'm going to make those pre-order, and there will be a limited amount for each. I don't want to swamp myself with like 50 skeins of yarn. Not that there's going to be 50 people interested, but I don't want to swamp myself with 50 pre-orders and then not have time to get everything done and get them out. So that's the first plan, and that will be going into action very shortly. I will also probably be dyeing up some yarns to go into the shop just on a ready dyed basis. I'm planning an advent for 2023. I want it to be an economy advent, so keeping the cost down as low as I can. So there won't be fancy extras. There will be the option to add a project bag and a full skein, so that again, if you're on a budget, you can still get an advent, but it will not cost you the earth. It will be, you know, yes, the extras will be less, but there is the option just to have the basic advent, or you can add the extras to it if you want to. I'm also later on in the year going to be offering memberships. Memberships are a bit like Patreon. So you pay a monthly fee, you become a member of my page on Ko-fi. I don't know quite how it's described. And then for that you get extra benefits depending on the level that you're at. So it works exactly like Patreon, basically. I just haven't formalised what extra benefits there might be. So until I do that, I'm not going to offer the memberships, because I don't want to go into it half-heartedly and change things around. I want to be able to give you some good stuff. So that's what I've got so far. There will also be, as there has been for the last couple of months, skeins going in ready to post, of yarns that I've dyed up. It won't all be pre-orders. So that's the plans that I have so far. They will probably develop, and there will probably be more as the year goes forward. But yeah, I wanted to share that with you now. So at the moment, the Ko-fi shop is closed. I closed it just before Christmas. There were only a couple of things in there anyway. And as you will know, the postal strikes, the Royal Mail striking, had a really detrimental effect on parcels getting delivered. And I had one, it was actually a parcel that I'd sent to Denise, and it was sent, I think, on the 5th or the 6th of December, and she got it the Thursday before Christmas. And the stress that I had for those every single day going till she got it, I was checking the tracking, and it just said there'll be no tracking update till we try and deliver it. And it was obviously just sat in a cage somewhere, and the stress was so bad I thought, I'm closing the shop till they've cleared the backlog. They seem to have done that, but I might not put anything in the shop, maybe for a week or so, just to be sure that things are back on track. At present, at the time of recording, they don't have any more strikes scheduled, but I expect there will be, because I don't think they've won the battle yet. So they're bound to need to strike again. So bearing that in mind, yeah, it's nerve-wracking. I described them before as my yarn babies, and they really are. And then when someone has bought them, I'm so afraid of letting somebody down because it goes missing in the post. Because I had a prize go missing in the post back in September, that still hasn't arrived, and I don't think it ever is going to now. And yeah, I'm not happy about that. So shop is currently closed. Don't panic about that. It's just while Royal Mail sorts themselves out. It will reopen with some new stock in a week or so, and possibly with the pre-orders up as well. That's that. I think that's everything I needed to tell you. I'll try desperately to put the hashtags and, if I can, links for all the make-alongs I've mentioned down below. All the patterns I've mentioned will be down below. All the information on how to contact me, you guessed it, it's down below. So, with that done, it's now getting properly dark. I'm going to go and just wish you a very happy new year. Let's hope it's going to be a much better year for everybody. And until I see you next week, happy knitting. Bye guys.